All right, so in this studio, what if we want this part over here to move into this spot over here, into this part, which we're gonna call target. So to do this, we can use something called tween service, which is gonna be very useful. So to start out, let's make a script on the part. First we want to do is define the part itself, so local part equals the script and dot parent. Then we want to find our target, which is in workspace, so we can just do local target equals workspace dot target. All right, so now what we also need to get is the tween service itself, which we can do just saying local tween service is equal to game get service tween service. All right, so what we're gonna pretty much do is create like an animation that's gonna move the part from over here to in the center of this part right here. So to do this, our animation is gonna be called local tween, and we're gonna create a new one with tween service. My bad. With a tween service and create. So if we look here, we have three parameters that we need to look at. The first one is the instance, which is gonna be very simple. It's just the part that we're gonna affect. So in this case, it'll be our part here. And then we also have tween info and property table. So to start out, we can just fill out the part. And now, the first thing I'm gonna focus on is the property table because it's more simple. So pretty much, it's just gonna tell us like the end goal of one of our properties. So we can just set this to local goals equal, and we can just make it a table. So what we want to modify when it comes to our destination is going to be the position. We want to change the position from the position over here of the part to the position of this target over here. So what we can just do is goals dot position, and we can just simply set it to the target position. So we can do equals target dot position. All right, so that's good for our goals. Now we also need the tween info, if you remember, and this punch is going to tell us how our animation is going to work. And so what we can just do is local info, we can call it equals tween info dot new. So I think we should arrange it like this. It's more simple. And right now, and so as you can see here, there's a few different properties. There's going to be time, easing style, easing direction, repeat count, reverses, and delay time. So I'm just going to write a few of them out, and then I'm going to explain them to you. All right, so these are the properties we're going to be using. The first one here is the simplest one. This is just going to be our time. This is just going to tell us how long our animation is going to last. So from this position, it'll take 5 seconds for us to reach our target. As you can see, we set 5 seconds. Now, enum.easing style. This just tells us how our part is going to move. So with linear right here, this is just the most simple. It'll just keep moving at the same speed. But there's also other ones we can do. We can do, for example, quad, exponential, bounce, and there's actually a really easy gift that'll tell you how to do it, and this is it right here. So as you can see here, linear just moves in a constant rate, and then some of these are pretty weird, like bounce over here. This is just how they work. Right now, we'll just keep it linear. Now, easing direction, I'm going to skip this one real quick, and I'm going to explain it to you later because I want to show you an actual example, which will be much easier for you to understand. Now, repeat count will just tell you how many times the animation is going to repeat. And if you set to 0, it'll just go one time, then go back and it'll stop. If you set to -1, it'll just keep going back and forth an infinite amount of times. Now, the next one here is reverses. And what this will do is pretty much say if it'll do the tween in reverse as well. So if you set it to false, it'll just like teleport back. But if you do true, it'll do the same thing that it did going forward backwards. Now, delay time, this just tells you how long it'll take for the tween to start. And this will also go for like each time a new one starts. So if you do, for example, set the repeat count to 5, it'll do 1, pause for the amount of time in seconds, then it'll go another one, and it'll keep doing that. Right now, I set it to half a second, so that's how much time it'll take. All right, so we can just fill in the rest of the parameters we need right here. So we can do info, and goals. Now keep in mind, this has to be in this exact order, otherwise it will not work. Now what I'm gonna do, I'll make it wait like to do like 1 second, so that way we can actually see what it does. Now to actually start our animation, we're just gonna do tween play. All right, so let's go test it out. Now we gotta wait a second. As you can see, it'll just go in the same, and you can see it'll just go over here. And now we just set it to reverse, it'll just go straight back. Now that we did that, we can actually modify some of our properties. So let's go, instead of 5 seconds, let's make it a lot faster and go 1 second. All right, so now you can see it's a lot faster. And we'll just keep going back and forth because we didn't change anything else. Now let's try easing style. So let's try to do something kind of cool. What about let's do bounce. So now it'll go, and you can see it'll kind of like bounce back. Some of these are actually really weird, but they can be pretty useful. All right, now I want to tell you what easing the direction actually does. So to make this a bit easier, I'm gonna make it go a lot slower so we can see it better. But pretty much, like as you can see, some of these styles have different effects. So linear doesn't have any effect; it'll just keep going straight back and forth. But like for example, like elastic, it'll do some really cool stuff. Bounce as well, and so what easing direction does is pretty much tell you like what direction it'll actually apply them in. So for right now, it's set to out. So what that means, it's gonna go from our position. It's gonna go out here, do its effect, its bouncing effect. We set it to bounce, and then and then when it goes back, it won't do the effect. So right now it's set to out. As you can see, when it goes out, it'll do its little effect. And then if we wait, and then if you can see over there, it doesn't do its effect. Now we can also set this to in, and this will pretty much be the exact opposite. So as you can see right now, it'll do the bounce right now in the in direction, and now when it gets here, it won't do anything. Now in out, it means it'll do the effect for the in direction and the out direction. So we can test that out right here, and we'll see it'll start out right now doing the bounce effect, then it'll go and it'll do the same thing over here as well. All right, now I'm gonna set these values back because they're a bit weird. Set to out. All right, now the repeat count, as you can see, it'll just tell you how many times it repeats. So if we set this to 0 instead of -1, as you can see, it'll just go 1 time. And at the end, as you can see, it'll just go back. And that's it, it won't do anything else. Now this is the reverses. And so this is just, and so as you can see in the old example, it went there and then it went back. So if we set the reverses to false, then it'll just go forward and then it will stop. So now it's going, and now it stops. Now one thing to keep in mind is that you can, if we set the repeat count to something that isn't 0, like 2 for example, and reverses is false, it'll go over here normally, but then it has to go back. And since we set the reverses to false, it'll just go straight back. It'll just teleport. So if you're going to set this to something that is more than 0, you should probably turn this to true. Otherwise, it'll be a bit weird. All right, the final one is just going to be delay time, which just tells you how long it'll take for it to repeat. So instead of 0.5, we set this to we can do 5, for example. As you can see, it takes a lot longer to start up. Now finally it goes, then it'll stop here, and we can just, and then it'll go back here and needs to wait 5 seconds again. Okay, now we set the goal to our position, but we can do this for a lot of other properties. So if we wanted to make it change color while it went, we could do goals dot color equals color3 dot from RGB. And let's say if we want to make it so at the end it'll turn green, we can just do 0, then 255 and 0. So now what's going to happen is not only is it going to go from here to here, it's also going to turn green while it does that. And so let's check it out right here. Alright, so as you can see here, now it's starting to turn green, and the closer it gets, the more green it'll get. And when it goes back, if you can see, it gets less and less green, and turns back to white. And we can do this for really any property we want. So we can do the transparency even. And we can make it so, let's say it'll be like half transparent when it gets there. So now we can go, it'll start moving, get green, but it'll start to get transparent if you can see. And then in reverse, it'll do the exact opposite. Now with our with play function, we can also do a few other things. We can also pause it, which is just pause it, or we could pause it, and so we can test it out right here. So let's say it'll take 5 seconds, so we can wait 2 seconds. We can do tween pause. As we can see, it'll start and then it'll just pause. And then what we can also do, we can make it start up again. So we can make it wait another 1 second and tween. Tween play. So now it'll start up, it'll pause, wait a second, and it'll just keep going. Now, the last thing we can do with our tween, we can actually use like an event. So we can do tween dot completed, and we can connect the function right here. And we can just print done. So now when tween is completed, it'll just print done. So as you can see here, actually I should probably make the repeat count a lot less. Let's do this. All right. So now it'll go, it'll pause, and it'll keep going. And then when it reaches the destination right here, we'll go back, and right here it'll say done.